I never believed in haunted objects. I used to laugh at the idea that a spirit could cling to something so trivial as porcelain or fabric. But now, when I think about that night, about her eyes staring back at me from the corner of the room, I wish I had never touched that damned doll. It started when I moved into my grandmother's house. She had passed away a few months earlier, leaving the place abandoned. I was the only relative who agreed to take care of it. The house smelled of dust and old wood, a heavy scent that clung to my clothes. The floors groaned beneath every step, as if the walls themselves were still breathing. On the second night, while unpacking, I found a small wooden chest in the attic. It was covered in cobwebs, the lock rusted but already broken. Inside, nestled in yellowed cloth, was the doll. She was about 2 feet tall, wearing a faded dress that might once have been white, but was now the color of old paper. Her face was cracked, as if the porcelain had dried out, and her hair was a tangled mess of black strands. But what unsettled me most were the eyes. Glass eyes, round and too reflective, like they were moist. They caught the light of my flashlight and glowed faintly, even when I shifted the beam away. I thought it was strange, but I brought it downstairs anyway. My grandmother had been a collector of odd trinkets, and I figured it was just another relic of hers. I set the doll in the living room, on the old rocking chair by the window. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the silence of the house. Only it wasn't silent. Every so often, I thought I heard something faint, a creak, then another. At first, I told myself it was just the old wood expanding in the cool night air. But then came the sound of fabric moving, like someone shifting in a chair. I froze, holding my breath, straining to listen. The sound stopped. The room was heavy with quiet again. I told myself I was being paranoid. Still, I couldn't resist. I got up, crept down the stairs, and peeked into the living room. The rocking chair was moving, slowly, forward and back, and the doll, her head had tilted slightly to the side, as if she had been waiting for me to notice. My chest tightened, but I forced a laugh. "It's just the draft," I whispered to myself. I grabbed the chair, stopped its motion, and adjusted the doll's head upright. But as I turned away, I swear I heard it. A sound so faint I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. A whisper. It came from the doll. One word, spoken in a voice as fragile as dry leaves. "Stay." I didn't sleep at all after that whisper. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. Thin, broken, but unmistakable. "Stay." By morning, I convinced myself it was exhaustion, a trick of my mind after the stress of moving. But when I walked past the living room, the doll's head was tilted again. This time, her glassy eyes were pointed directly at the doorway, waiting for me. I refused to acknowledge it. I covered her with a sheet, telling myself it was temporary until I decided what to do. Yet that night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps, soft, uneven, dragging across the floor. They circled my bed. My throat went dry. I sat up, heart pounding, and switched on the lamp. Nothing. The room was empty, but the sheet I draped over the doll was gone. I found it crumpled in the hallway the next morning. The days blurred after that. Every night, I felt her presence grow stronger. Shadows stretched longer than they should. Doors creaked open on their own. Sometimes I'd hear faint laughter, childlike brittle, echoing from rooms I hadn't entered in days. But the worst was the smell. At first, it was subtle, like damp earth. Then it became unmistakable, the scent of rot, like something dead buried beneath the floorboards. It clung to me, seeped into my skin. I thought about throwing the doll away. One evening, I even grabbed it, carried it to the trash bin outside. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. But just as I was about to let go, I felt something. The doll's body was warm. I dropped it instantly, stumbling back. When I dared to look, her glass eyes were glowing faintly in the dark, almost alive. And for the first time, her mouth seemed wider, a crack splitting into the shape of a smile. I ran inside, slammed the door, and locked it. But the air was heavier now, the atmosphere charged, like the house itself was aware of what I had tried to do. That night I dreamt, or maybe it wasn't a dream. I woke up to the sensation of small hands pressing down on my chest. My eyes flew open, and she was there, crouched on top of me. The doll's cracked face hovered inches from mine, her teeth, tiny, jagged, visible through the fractures. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. Her glowing eyes filled my vision until everything else disappeared. Then, in a voice like a child humming through broken glass, she whispered again, "You can't leave me." When I woke up, the doll was back in the rocking chair, but the sheets on my bed were shredded, and my chest bore red marks where her hands had pressed down. And I knew she didn't just want to stay in the house. She wanted me. I don't know how many nights I lasted after that. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt her near me, the doll, the thing inside it, breathing softly, waiting. I stopped eating. I stopped leaving the house. Something about her had rooted itself into me. I couldn't walk past the living room without feeling my chest tighten. Her glassy eyes followed me everywhere, glowing faintly in the dark, always tilted, always watching. I tried to fight back. I lit candles, recited prayers I barely remembered from childhood. Once, I even smashed a cross against her porcelain face. But instead of breaking, she laughed, a sound like a child choking on ash. That night, I found the cross twisted on the floor, bent as if melted by fire. Desperation drove me to the attic. Maybe, I thought, if I placed her back in the chest, sealed it away, the house would quiet down. My hands shook as I carried her upstairs. Her body felt heavier than before, almost resisting, like she didn't want to go. I opened the chest. The wood groaned, dry and splintering. The moment I lowered her inside, the air shifted, the attic lights flickered, and in the shadows, I saw something stir. The doll's head snapped toward me, her mouth cracking wider, teeth glinting. And then, I heard them. Voices, dozens of them. Whispering, moaning, crying, all pouring from inside the chest. I dropped her. The lid slammed shut on its own, shaking violently as the voices grew louder. My ears rang, my vision blurred, but beneath it all, one voice rose above the others. Clear, sharp. It was my grandmother's. She was screaming my name. I stumbled back, tripping on the floorboards, clawing for the door. But when I turned, she was there. Not my grandmother, her, the doll. Standing upright, taller now, her limbs cracking as they stretched, her face splitting open like broken porcelain, revealing something darker beneath. Her eyes burned into mine. "You belong with us." The attic walls shuddered. The floor tilted beneath my feet. I screamed, ran, but the door slammed shut before I reached it. The last thing I remember is her small hands wrapping around my wrists, impossibly strong, pulling me toward the chest. When I woke up, it was morning. I was lying in my bed, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. The house was silent, too silent. I went to the living room. The rocking chair was empty. The chest in the attic was gone. Every trace of the doll had vanished. But I'm not free. I know that now. Because sometimes, when I pass a mirror, I see something impossible. A faint crack running across my skin, just like hers. And at night, when everything is quiet, I hear her voice inside my head, whispering the same word over and over, "Stay."
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.